All right, quick break. Knock, knock. Who's there? Amazon Music. Amazon Music who? Amazon Music, where Prime members can listen to top comedy podcasts ad-free. No awkward interruptions, just nonstop laughs from your favorite shows. It's free, it's funny, and hey, it's better than my knock-knock jokes. Download the Amazon Music app and let the good times roll. Or go to amazon.com/ad-free comedy. That's amazon.com/ad-free comedy to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Imagine being on a vacation for a very long time. Now imagine saving money nightly while you do it. Sounds pretty great, right? With Vrbo's long stay discounts, you can stay longer and save more. Our customers save an average of 10% when they book select properties for a week or longer. Just in case you needed another reason to extend that vacation, book the perfect summer getaway today with Vrbo Private Vacation Rentals. Your future self will thank you later.
Are you a healthcare professional? Texas Health Steps Online Provider Education provides health content you can start using in your practice today. We offer CE credited courses developed by experts. Sign up for a free account and start earning free CE today at txhealthsteps.com.
Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas podcast. You can find us online at hancepodcast.com. Send email to info@hancepodcast.com and follow us on Instagram at Best Storyteller Podcast. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. You'll receive notifications every time we release a new episode. We hope you enjoy part 2 of Chancellor Hance's conversation with the president and CEO of Occidental Petroleum, Vicki Hollub.
I was chairman of the Railroad Commission, so I've always followed oil and gas. And that Anadarko, when you bought that, I thought it was good. And then I read one day about Warren Buffett, getting involved with Oxy. And I thought, well, I thought that was good. I bought a little stock, and Warren's following me. I appreciate it. But you got some criticism on that, but you look at the long haul, you were right. And so instead of trying to back out or the first time somebody came along, so that's going to be a problem, you realized, and you'd lived through the ups and downs of the oil and gas industry. And you stayed in the right position for the right reasons, and it's proven to be a very good investment.
Yeah, we all, our executive team, we had confidence in what we were doing there because we had teams that had worked it for a long time. And so we knew the Anadarko acquisition was something that our company needed and would make the most out of. And now it's a major part of our production and our cash flow. So it did work out, and I have to, again, congratulate the teams and attribute that success to the groundwork that they laid the 2 years prior to us going into battle for it. We had all that knowledge and we had that confidence.
You knew what you were doing and you could look down the road. Mm-hmm. You weren't looking just 10 feet away. Let's talk about a couple things. Price war and the pandemic. They came boom, boom.
Yes, they did.
And you saw it firsthand, and talk about those and the adjustments you made and what you did to hang on, and also try to hang on to your top people.
I tell you, we were on March 6th of 2020, Friday. We had a group of over 100 employees at the Woodlands, and we were looking at all the metrics and targets we had put in place for the Anadarko transition. And we were celebrating the fact that we were way ahead of schedule in terms of hitting those synergies that we had laid out for the company to achieve. So we were done on the synergies. And so we'd gotten them and still retain a lot of that today. And so even with all the changes and everything. So I could talk about, I won't talk about it, but we've just about paid out that acquisition in about less than 5 years. So it was amazing how fast.
That's remarkable.
So we had the team there to congratulate them on those accomplishments and what all they had done and how fast they'd been able to do it. And so we were working on what are the next steps, what do we now do, and what's most important to do. When about noon, I was talking to the group, and at noon I see our IR guy standing at one of the doors motioning me to come on, and I'm thinking, Jeff, what are you doing? I'm like talking to people here.
I'm in the middle of a speech.
Yeah, and so I go over and then and go out in the hallway. I finished it up, went out to the hallway to talk to him, and he showed me the plot of our stock dropping like a rock. And then I said, what is happening? And then he showed me the plot of the WTI dropping like a rock. And so it was around noontime that we figured out that there had been a price war, there had been a major war in the meeting in Geneva. Vienna, with the OPEC meeting. And we have people that we know that are very well connected to OPEC at the time. And they got word to us that this was not just a skirmish, this was not just a disagreement, this was going to be something that was really bad for our industry. So we knew by that weekend that this was not a situation that was going to be fixed quickly. And so then we get the double whammy. The next week, the World Health Organization finally declared COVID a pandemic. So with a combination of those two, and then that impact on pricing, we decided we had to take immediate action, and so I got with the board. We laid out some steps, and the steps that we laid out was, first of all, we had to cut our dividend, which was the toughest decision that I'd ever made. But we had been struggling with the dividend anyway. We even when I took over as CEO, we were about, well, we just had difficulties with the cash flow. We couldn't cover the dividend with the cash flow we had at the time. So we'd been trying to build cash flow through organic development. And now we knew we were in a situation where we wouldn't be able to continue that organic development to get to a point to cover that dividend. So we cut the dividend. That was tough. And then the next thing we had to do, because we didn't know how long this was going to last, nobody had ever seen this in our industry, that was about, if I recall, a 12 to 15 million barrel a day drop in demand just like that within a week. And so it was unheard of, not something we expected, not one of the scenarios that we ran.
Right.
So we were...
Would have been called end of the world strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So we knew that we needed to preserve cash flow, so we just got our teams together and said, look, this is the situation we're in. Go find a way to reduce our outflow of cash, but do it safely. Make sure you don't cut anything that would put anybody at risk or the environment at risk. And that lesson learned is, and sometimes we forget these lessons that we learned, but that lesson learned was just trust your teams. You don't have to tell your teams exactly how to do things. You just tell them, what is it you need to accomplish? What do we need from them? And let them go do it, because they did it and they did it fast. They reacted quicker. I think we acted faster than any other company to execute on the things that we needed to do to get our activity level down and our cash flow preserved. And so it ended up that we averaged $39.50 WTI for that year. So it ended up our $40 scenario would have worked, but we didn't know that at the time. And so it was a scary time. And so we cut activity, and the teams did an amazing job. And I'm forever grateful to our employees for what they did. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting here today had our employees not reacted as quickly as they did. And then things were going well for us until somehow, which is a story I have to tell much later down the road, somehow Icahn got onto our board. That's when the people issues were more concerning for me, because we were not going to lay off. And how can you, as a corporation, lay off people when you know there's no job for them to go to. We've had to do it in the past in our industry, and it's been the worst thing I ever do. We lay off people the worst possible time when times are rough and they can't get jobs.
Right.
And the corporations need to plan their business and activities around ensuring that when your employees are there when you need them most, you got to be there when your employees need you the most too. And so that's what we try to do here. We've tried to design our business to be able to do that. But at the time, with Icahn on the board, there were a couple of things that happened.
You have 3 people
Yeah,
on the
3
board?
people.
And, for the first time, you're in a situation that not only you got to be looking out for the enemy, but you got to be looking behind you.
Yeah, well,
There may be somebody on your team that's really not on your team.
yeah, the enemy was right there in the boardroom with us for
Right.
sure, and they were, in the way that his Icahn operates was to try to divide the board, was to find the sort of weaknesses of or areas where board members could be influenced and figure them out and then try to influence in that way. And so, I didn't know all the time what was happening and how those dynamics were going. But I do have people on my team that I knew I could trust through whatever scenario happened. And it was helpful to have people like that. And they were a big part of us making it through. Is just because at the time, as you said, in a time of crisis, you've got to know who you can depend on, and you have to know how they're going to react, and know how to manage so that we don't stress people too much. And so we started these quarterly calls with our entire organization at the time to try to settle people down and try to make sure people were aware of what was going on. And that's where I found out that sometimes my desire to share information doesn't settle people. It sometimes can cause stress. Yeah, it's like one time I was trying to explain what bankruptcy is to make sure our employees realized they would survive. Some of us wouldn't, but they would survive. That was stressful to them because then they thought that I must think there's a chance
It's going to happen any day.
Yeah, and I was trying to say, no, it's not going to happen to us. But if in the case, if it did, you're going to be fine. The organization will be fine.
That's amazing. I mean, you had a good group, your inner core group, through some tough times, and you've stayed on target. And I think that's one of the great things that I think you're one of the best CEOs around in any industry, because you don't jump from one little spotlight to the next spotlight. You have a game plan, and y'all look at where's it going to be in 3 years? Where's it going to be in 6 years?
Yeah, and I think the big thing about Oxy now versus prior CEOs and versus some other companies is we do have a strong leadership team, and I know that I can't lead this company alone, and I have to have a team that's working with me to do this, and the team that we have was incredibly strong throughout the entire crisis and was there, and we met. That's when we started our every Tuesday meeting, or it used to be every Monday, but we started our weekly staff meetings during the crisis, and we've continued them through today, and we still have them today. But it became even more evident how strong and committed and passionate the team is to be successful during that time of crisis. And crises can do one of two things. They can either make you closer or they can break you up. And certainly this one made us even closer.
What about Warren Buffett? He's a visionary, and I've got some of his stock, and I only wish I'd bought it when I was 12 years old. He's great. He's a visionary in so many industries, and he's bet on you big time, bet on Oxy. And what's the relationship there? Do you talk to him very often, or?
Oh, I do. I go up and visit him after every earnings call just to see if he has questions, just like we try to visit with all of our major shareholders. And the meetings with Warren Buffett are always good because early on he really didn't ask too many questions about the company. He reads everything, is so well informed and incredibly intuitive, and so he knew everything about the company. He keeps up with it. He retains it, and so we went from talking about all sorts of things and macro and things like that and stories and to where he's now. He loves to hear about the technology and is very interested in that. So he's been, but for me, the conversations for me have been educational because I get to learn how he kind of thinks about things, and it's helpful for me to know the things that he's learned over time that he's been able to share, and it's a great relationship. He does love the what the company is doing in terms of operational performance and technical excellence. I think he's proud of our team, and still again supports it. So he's been a great shareholder because he can be open and transparent. We have some other larger shareholders that can do the same with us, and that's what we really appreciate is those that have enough confidence in us and trust in us that they can tell us what they think and that we're going to take that information but make the right decisions, and where if there's ever any disconnect, to make sure that we help people to understand what we're doing. And so it's been, for not just myself but for their company, a great relationship.
I think you learn a lot from him just by the questions he asks.
Oh yes.
You know, write those questions down. I want to think about that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about another issue that's a huge issue in is unrealistic times, and that's the global warming, the climate change. I know one of our members of Congress said everybody be dead by 2030, and I'm not betting on that one. You know, I got a letter from her. She wanted me to give some money. So we're all going to be dead by 2030. Why should I contribute to you? And with what's happening, Oxy's been out front on trying to decrease or even go below zero on emissions. Mm-hmm. Talk about that. I mean, y'all have been a leader in that regard.
I would say, first of all, I do believe the climate is changing, and I do know that there have been cycles over time where there's been periods where the Earth was warmer, periods where it was colder. So there are natural cycles that occur, but I don't believe it's right for our world to continue to put CO2 in the atmosphere without doing something about it. I think that it does have an impact, and I think that people that think it don't or just don't like the term climate change, I think that they're not being realistic about how things can impact, even small changes can impact an ecosystem. And so I feel confident that our view that CO2 emissions needs to be reduced significantly, and that we also, since we cannot shut off CO2 emissions around the world today, there's no way to shut them off, there's no way to even reduce them significantly in the near term. So we believe that our direct air capture facility is very important to help mitigate some of the changes that are being caused by the CO2 in the atmosphere. And I believe that to be real. The other thing, though, is that's the truth, and we're very transparent about this, is we started about 16 years ago trying to figure out how do we develop the incremental resources that we have in the conventional reservoirs in the Permian. We've been working our CO2 enhanced oil recovery reservoirs in the Permian for 50 years. And we've been able in some reservoirs to get up to about 75% of the oil in the ground. When a lot of conventional reservoirs, you're leaving more than 50% of the oil in the ground. Right. And so CO2 is helpful to do that. But what we realized about 16 years ago is that there's not enough organic CO2 in naturally occurring reservoirs to underground to continue the development of our conventional reservoirs. And so we're short enough on CO2 that we've got 2 billion barrels of resources that we're going to need that CO2 to develop. So we've always had a business case to do this. We've had a business case to find more CO2. And so we started back then, our government teams working on ways to help us get more CO2 from industry and to provide an incentive through 45Q to get that CO2. So we worked it really hard, and we had people out knocking on doors to say, hey, Mr. Cement Company CEO, how about we work this deal where we come and we take your CO2, we have a use for it, and I'm sure you don't want to put it in the atmosphere. That didn't work. That didn't go over very well. And we've tried that with lots of industry. We've tried it with steel, we've tried it with cement, we've tried it with ethanol plants, we've tried it with power plants. And we do not today have one molecule of CO2 coming from those sources. Now we do have some coming from an oil and gas field through Century Plant and we're using that, but that's the only anthropogenic CO2 that we have going into our reservoirs. And so, absent of success there, we were kind of getting desperate to find some way to be able to develop this resource that the Permian has in conventional. And we ran recently, or not too more recently, is a couple of 4 pilot tests in the shale to show that we can actually get incremental CO2 out of the shale with incremental oil out of the shale with CO2. And so our teams in a few years ago in 2017 or 18 ran into a company called Carbon Engineering that actually could extract CO2 out of the atmosphere. So we thought, wow, this is kind of the holy grail for us, to be able to get CO2 out of the atmosphere to use to develop these incremental oil resources and develop them in a way that not only provides value for our shareholders, but also reduces the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. What could be better than that? Checks every box, except that we find it's a bit expensive, because while every part of the direct air capture facility is in use in some other industrial process, it had never been put together in the way that Carbon Engineering designed it to extract that CO2. So now that's what we're doing. Now we're in the process of, and we bought Carbon Engineering because these are guys that not only came up with this technology and had the IP for it, but are also coming up with ways to innovate it and make it better. And so we bought Carbon Engineering to try to accelerate that innovation so that we can be the company that is doing and has developed a strategy that checks all those boxes. And to me, this is what oil companies need to do. We need to figure out how to get more oil out of existing reservoirs. We need to make sure that we're doing it in a way that helps the environment instead of hurts the environment. And so I don't know of any other way to do it than the way we're doing it, to check all those boxes. And so I'm pretty excited about where we are and think that this is where the future of the industry has to go ultimately. So we're working this technology and hope that what we'll be able to do with this innovation that's coming is get it down to a cost that will make it possible to do it everywhere around the world.
You've been a leader in that regard. Oxy's been out front. Some people overestimate, in my opinion, the change that's happening in the weather. Some ignore it, Mm-hmm. And I think you're right. You're anticipating what may be coming up, and that to be prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And I commend you on that. I think it's very good.
But even if the reality is, even if somebody were to come up and say, hey, you know, what we're finding is that it's okay for this CO2 to be in the atmosphere, and it's okay to continue to put CO2 in the atmosphere. The reality is, I still don't think industry's going to let us get their CO2. So, and that would make it even less likely that we would get CO2 from industry. So at that point, then direct air capture still needs to work for our business case.
And I understand that, but you have tried the other industries.
We did.
And they're all like, yeah, well, you know, we'll call you back when we get ready for that. And they don't call back or whatever.
Right.
But you still are saying, look, we want to be as clean as possible on what we're doing.
Exactly.
And I think that's big for the future. Vicki, this has been a great interview. You're always fun to interview and fun to talk with. And last year, I interviewed you in New Mexico, and I asked you one question. A&M had beaten Alabama that year, and I said, is it true that all the Alabama, that all the Texas A&M people who work for Oxy got fired that next week? And you said, not all of them. But you have a great sense of humor. It's easy to understand why you're a leader with the people that you work with, because you think they're more important than you are.
They are.
And they may be, they may not be, but they feel that you feel that way, and you're to be commended. And I appreciate you visiting with us. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.